everybody? Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer and our special guest today, our boy Travis. Travis, how you doing today?
What's
I'm
up,
doing
man?
good,
How are
man.
you?
How you doing? I'm doing good.
And Chris Palmer, how you doing today?
Can't complain, man. Another good week. I hope everyone had a good week. T, I hope you had a really good week watching this week.
Oh yeah, Dolphins are 6-2, so it's looking good.
So,
Yes,
T,
yes.
would you before we get going, just tell everyone what is your team? Are the Dolphins your team? Have
Oh
they always
yes,
been your team?
100%. Grew up, my whole family was Jets fans. All my other friends, varying teams, Ravens, Steelers, Jags. Stuck with Miami even when they were 1-15. So it's been a long fucking investment. At least it paid
Been a
off.
long ride, brother, but here you are. This
Yes,
seems to
sir.
be your year. Let me ask you, how
Mhm.
does that feel after the whole ride to see where you are now?
Feels good. It's like I was telling Halpin the other day, like when Tua first came to the Dolphins, everybody was giving him high praises because of what he did in Alabama, but I just wanted him to stay healthy. And it's going to show as long as he stays healthy, he could fucking stay under center. He could really lead this team to do great things.
You're not wrong.
Absolutely, and they have a great matchup this upcoming week against the Chiefs in Germany, and we're going to talk all about that game in this episode. But
Potential
first,
AFC Championship.
it very well could be.
Potential AFC Championship. Look at that.
So, with that being said, before we get into any of that, let's start with our Week 8 recap because we had a lot of great games this past weekend, and we just want to go through them very quickly, just to get it going. So, I want to start with the Thursday night game, and that was the
Mhm.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing to the Buffalo Bills 24-18 in a surprisingly closer game than we expected.
100%.
Palma, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this game?
Well, again, the Bucks are. I mean, the Bills are just better than the Bucks. Josh Allen is a much better quarterback. But got to give my hat off to Baker Mayfield. He stood in there and he can play. He's not a great quarterback. He's good enough to win you games. We said that last week. He's good enough to stand and fight. I still don't really trust the Bills because they're just very, very reckless with the ball.
Mhm.
So they got a good win, but they're still very reckless.
And T, how do you feel about the Bills? You think they're creeping up on your Dolphins?
I mean, stat wise, no. Like record wise, sure. But to build on what Palma said, like Josh Allen's a great quarterback. Stephon Diggs, great wide receiver. You got Cook cooking over there, but the big issue is like they're just so inconsistent. Like to
Mhm.
struggle against the Bucks when the Bucks have no fucking weapons, right? Like Baker Mayfield, you're struggling, and the game, to my recollection, it ended with a potential Hail Mary into the end zone that just wasn't caught. So
Yep.
it's like, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna play a team like that and then bring it down to the wire and just cheese out the win. That's not a good look. It is not a good look.
No, it's not. But the Bills move on to 4-3 or five and
Ironic
three, if I'm
though,
not mistaken. Mm-hmm.
5-3, right? Ironic though. I do have to say, Leonard Fournette to the Bills, right?
Like
Good
that.
move.
Like that
Yeah,
move.
so that's going to be big for them. They have a running back. Ironically, to my knowledge, he was on the Bucks last before
He
free
was.
agency.
Yes, he
Yeah,
was
so
before he hit a free agency. You got a ring with the Bucks with Tom Brady.
yes,
Yep.
sir. So there's irony in that, but it's good for the Bills. You got a good fucking running back. You could do a lot.
Absolutely. And
100%.
so let's move on to Sunday's slate of games, starting with the New York Jets getting the improbable win over the New York Giants, 13-10. T, what are your thoughts on that game?
Garbage bowl. That was so bad. Like obviously, like I have my opinion on the Jets being division rivals, but dude, like you bring it to the last minute. That's where you bring it to overtime, and then even that was ugly. It all around ugly. I give Zach Wilson all the credit in the world. I feel like he gets shit on,
Mhm.
um, but overall terrible game. Giants with only 8 receiving yards. Ran it the entire second half. 34 rushing attempts by Saquon Barkley is abysmal. Abysmal. That shouldn't even have to be put on somebody.
He is the team.
Yeah. Good thing they paid
But he
Daniel
didn't get the
Jones, man.
paycheck.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. See if you give me your quick thoughts on that.
It's a shame if Saquon
Um,
got paid.
definitely have to agree that it was an ugly game. It was more or less a game of who's going to play worse. Um, But gotta say, man, MetLife Stadium just needs to be set on fire. 6 players between both teams got hurt that
Yeah,
week.
man.
And it all happened in the first half. That's why everyone stopped passing the ball. Like he said, they ran the entire second half. They were too broken to even try to make a pass attempt down the field. They do not trust the field.
Yep.
The field is dangerous at MetLife. Point blank.
I think Aaron Rodgers can attest to that. But yeah, there's the constant debate of like turf and grass, and thankfully for the Chiefs Dolphins game in Frankfurt, Germany, the field is actually going to be a hybrid of 90% grass to 10% turf. So
10%
hopefully
injury.
So hopefully that game that minimizes any injuries.
Mhm.
But for any player that was injured during this game or throughout this entire season, we wish you a very healthy and safe recovery going forward.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of healthy and safe recovery, let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars getting the win over the Steelers, 20-10. Chris Palmer. What's the status on Kenny Pickett as of late? Do you know?
As of right now, he's day to day with a rib injury.
Okay.
He's saying he'll be okay for Thursday. It's a quick week. So he's hoping to be back. It's Minka Fitz that I'm worried about with that hamstring injury. There's been no further update as to like if it was a rupture, if it was just a strain. So there's really no say as to how long he will be out. But as you know, history kind of tells, if it's a hamstring, it's usually between 3 and 5 weeks, and that's a long time to not have Minka Fitz on the field.
Especially mid-season.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mid-season stretch is big.
Mid-season, no trade deadline, no moves in the trade deadline again. So that's a heavy one.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the Philadelphia Eagles getting a close win over the Washington Commanders, 38-31. Philly moves on to 7-1, the best record in the league, but they are not the dominant team that we suspect them to be. They have a lot of flaws. T, just give me your brief thoughts on the Eagles and that game.
I mean, a little sour taste in the mouth about Philly, but you know they have a lot of talent. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts. Like the team is just offensively stacked. But the problem really lies in that fucking brotherly shove play. Like it gets under my skin, especially because that's not why they won that game. That's not the point. But they faked it last week, so now the play's evolving. Right now you have to. Nick Sirianni said it best. It's like when you have that in your arsenal, you start off at 1st and 9 every single drive. You get to 4th and 1, you can just do a brotherly shove, you get it through. And now, if you can't get it through, oh, well, we could just fake it to Swift on the outside. And so it's just, they're a problem. They're a real fucking problem.
Absolutely.
Especially not related to the game, but with San Francisco falling off as hard as they are,
It leaves the NFC wide open.
Exactly. So it wouldn't shock me to see a repeat by the Eagles this year to the bowl. I don't know about winning the bowl, but
okay,
it's very possible. Paul, brief thoughts on that game.
Brief thoughts. Again, not a fan of the tush push. Everyone called it the brotherly shove. It's the tush push. But Washington did show that it can be stopped at the goal line. They made a big stop at the goal line during the tush push, so it can.
That's why
be
they had
stopped.
to audible to a fake.
Right, but it is mortal. It's not an immortal move. It's not an immortal play. But don't expect it here next year. As lethal as the Eagles still are, to me, they went into this season a completely new team. Again, 2 different coordinators. Most of their starters are gone from last year. Have a bunch of young guys on the defense now, Jalen Carter, and he's still skeptical as to who he's going to be in the league. So they're a different team. As strong as they are athletically, they are a different team chemistry-wise. So that's still as to why we're seeing a couple of flaws come at it and improvisation to more elementary plays happening this season.
Yeah, Philly coming away with a win, and they have a tough matchup this week against the Dallas Cowboys, who beat the Los Angeles Rams last week 43-20 in a dominating defensive effort. That Dallas defense is real. We've all been saying it this year. That Dallas defense is just unreal to this point. I think they have the number 4 ranked defense.
which is blasphemous, but I respect it.
Yeah,
Statistics you can't deny.
I know. So Dallas could very well challenge the Eagles, and
Well,
I'm really looking
that's
forward to that matchup this week.
that's the game of the week, right? For the NFC, it's like those are the two, ironically from the same division. So one
Mm-hmm.
has to take the wild card, but both those teams are just fucking absolute units.
Yeah, gotta love the Cowboys. Specifically, I love Micah Parsons. Dude
Yeah,
is on a different level when it comes to
100%.
linebackers. And Trayvon Diggs, in the secondary as well. Again, my problem is I don't trust Dak Prescott. He
Mm-hmm.
has
Well,
the
that's
capabilities to play awesome,
yeah,
but it's the
100%.
inconsistency that shows all the time. To me,
So
they're the Bills of the NFC.
I like
You can't trust
that. I
them.
like that.
You just can't trust them.
So with Dak, right? I agree with you, but that's like the thing is if their defense is so good, and it just put like look at to compare them like the Jets, like such a bad offense, but the defense makes them so relevant that it's like if you can keep it that close, offense can just close the door.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. So I'm really looking forward to that matchup this week, and we're going to be talking more about that later on in this episode. I want to stick to another NFC matchup that happened this past weekend
Mm-hmm.
with the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. The Minnesota Vikings won 24-10, but at a big loss, losing Kirk Cousins for the year due to an
Mm-hmm.
Achilles injury. You
And what
hate
an
to see it.
aggressive snap that was, man. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah,
watched the replay on it, that snap was aggressive.
yeah,
It wasn't like Aaron Rodgers where it's like you saw the tear happen for sure, but you saw the camera view from a front angle and you watch his whole calf snap. Like it was
yeah,
one of the most aggressive Achilles tears I've seen in a very long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it
yeah,
was such a shame too because he was playing at such a very high level, even though the Vikings were not really winning a lot. But the Vikings did make a move at the trade deadline, trading with the Arizona Cardinals, getting Joshua Dobbs as their
yeah.
quarterback going for the rest of this year going forward.
And moving forward, because I believe the Vikings made it very clear that they have no intention on re-signing Kirk. So it's like
Right.
Yes.
they won, but at what cost, right? Like they started at 1-4. Their record did not reflect the team, and then first you lose Jefferson, now you lose Kirk. It's like you're 4-4, but it's looking very bleak moving forward.
Right. Now
Definitely
you're running a
want to keep your
skeleton
eye
team.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely want to keep an eye on Minnesota going into this offseason. I want to move on to a very interesting game this past weekend. The Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans winning 28-23.
Mm-hmm.
But they started their young rookie quarterback, Will Levis, who had a phenomenal game throwing for 4 touchdowns, and DeAndre Hopkins going absolutely off. They play this Thursday against your Steelers, Chris Palmer. Tell me, give me your brief thoughts on Will Levis's performance.
I do like Will Levis. Me, I have a soft spot for Malik Willis. I do want to see him get on the field. But Will Levis is someone that Mike Vrabel wanted specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly Mike Vrabel saw something that he likes in Will Levis, and that is his composure in the pocket. He's able to throw on a dime. He's able to read through progressions. So, hats off to Will Levis on having a very good debut. Hopefully he doesn't do that again against our defense, and maybe our offense can finally wake up. But we'll see what happens on Thursday.
You're in a rough position too, but I agree with Palmer definitely.
Oh yeah, so it's going to be very interesting going forward with the Tennessee Titans and the Atlanta Falcons, who are going to move on from Desmond Ridder to Taylor Heineke for this upcoming week. So both of these teams made a change at quarterback this game. So let's see where these teams go for the rest of the season. Let's move back to the AFC with your Miami Dolphins getting the win over the New England Patriots, 31-17.
Yes,
T,
sir.
give us your thoughts on that game.
It's a good look and a bad look at the same time, right? Like, you look at New England, and to give up 2 touchdowns and a field goal, 17 points, it's not necessarily a good look. Like I know we talked about this earlier. Our defense has had a lot of holes with injuries. Specifically this week for KC, we have uh, Holland, Howard, and Williams all coming back for defense, so that's going to be great. But offensively, it's good to see that we can get back into the passing game as well. For a long time, we were
Mhm.
leaning into the run, but the Eagles showed that our run game is very mortal.
Mhm.
Um, but you gotta take the wins with the losses.
Absolutely. CP, what are your thoughts on that game?
Good tough win. I actually had the Patriots going over this week. I'm sorry, T. I
Fuck
just
you.
you can never count out Bill Belichick and
You
him
can't count
playing
out Bill Belichick,
interdivision teams.
but Mac Jones is just not him.
No, I completely agree with that. So we're gonna keep an eye on New England going forward. But a good win for the Miami Dolphins. Let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints in a very thrilling game. 38-27 Saints over the Colts. Chris Palmer, give me your brief thoughts on that game.
Gotta say, man, Derek Carr looks good in the Saints uniform. You know, I, he looks really
He
good in the
does.
Saints uniform. He's playing tough. He's playing like he's ready to win again. Like
Mhm.
early Derek Carr on the Raiders before all the air got
Mm-hmm.
sucked out of Las Vegas. I'm talking like the year or two after he broke his leg and he came back. The
Mhm.
Derek Carr that everyone was calling elite, myself included. I'll own that one. Um, he seems to have found a home in New Orleans. I like seeing it. Unfortunate for Chris Olave, little
Yeah.
ass hat that he is, but
Yeah,
good strong
it's
win
being
for the
what you
Saints.
said.
Yeah, it's such a shame, but New Orleans did not miss a beat that game, putting up 38 points on that Colts defense.
Taysom Hill had that bomb throw.
Taysom Hill
I'm
still
telling you
he's still
guys,
He's
getting it
such a
done,
good
man.
backup.
I feel like there's something special about that man. He could play tight end. He could pass the ball. He's very conscious. He's I'm not gonna say a two-way player because he's not playing defense, but just so versatile. And if he was put on a team that really put him to work, he could do something special.
It it would be nice to see him get a shot, but I like that he's incorporated a lot within the Saints offense because
Hundred
they
percent.
utilize him very well, and I guess he delivers a lot of variety to that offense, which
Hmm.
and another dimension that other teams just don't utilize for their tight ends or
Agreed.
quarterbacks in that regard. But hey, Saints, another team to keep your eye on this season. I want to move on to Carolina and Houston, with the Carolina Panthers getting their first win of the year, 15-13, and this was a game that you and I talked about, Chris Palmer, last week.
Hmm.
Um, what are your quick thoughts on this game?
Um, More exciting for a low-scoring game than I thought it was going to be. Happy
Mhm.
for the Panthers to finally put one on the board. Number one versus number two draft picks. That was a good hard fought game between the two of them. I have no complaints about this game, even though it was low scoring.
T, any thoughts on this game?
I mean, if I'm the Panthers, I tank for draft picks at this point. But I mean, that's frowned upon unless you're Brian Flores. Um, but no, like Palma said, like it's good to see the 1 and 2 draft picks duke it out. They're the future of the league. So definitely a good game.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Seattle, where the Seattle Seahawks got a very close win over the Cleveland Browns, 24-20. I was actually watching this game, and I got to say, this was a very entertaining game to watch. It was a tale
Mm-hmm.
of two halves. It was all Seattle in the first half, and then it was Browns making the comeback, making the slow climb back, and Kevin Stefanski not straying away from his philosophy of running the ball with Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford.
Yes, sir.
I got to say, the Browns looking pretty good without Deshaun Watson. I know you said that before, CP, but they're looking pretty good without him.
Listen, man, the Browns are better without Deshaun Watson. They didn't need him. That was
No, that
literally
was a
a
desperation
desperate
move.
move. Right.
100%.
It was one of the most desperate contract signings I think I've ever seen from actually watching football as we've been doing this podcast. It was one of the single most desperate contract signings I've ever seen for a team that never needed it in the first place.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good to see a guy from the XFL getting it done, looking good while doing it.
Seen a
You know,
couple people out of the XFL coming out, man. There's one or two wide
quarterback on the
receivers around the
Browns.
league, quarterback on
Mm-hmm.
the Browns. There's a couple of defensemen from the XFL. There's a couple of
Yeah,
players scattered around from the XFL.
it's good to see him come up and actually get a shot and do well with it.
Absolutely, 100%.
I love how
Um,
the XFL has turned into the inadvertent farm team for the NFL.
That's exactly how I feel. It's perfect. It's like operate outside the season, push our guys into it, and then PJ Walker is the perfect example. Like he got a shot, and he's gonna make the most of it.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll love to see it. Let's move on to San Francisco, where the Cincinnati Bengals got the win over the Bengals 31 to 17. Joe Burrow with his best game of the year, 28 for 32 attempts to completions, 317 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bengals could not be stopped, and the 49ers, this is their third loss in a row. T, I'm going to ask you real quick. Can the 49ers, can they bounce back and get to their dominance after their bye week?
Can they? Sure. Are they going to? I don't think so. I think that the problem in the 49ers lies in the quarterback. I think that, overall, Debo's hurt. That's fine. But overall, their offense is so stacked, bro. You have like one of the best offensive lines in the league. You have Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Juszczyk, and then you got Christian
Kittle.
McCaffrey, right? Kittle. And then you have Christian McCaffrey, literally the best running back in the league. 17, I think he's at 17 consecutive games with a touchdown. He's tied for the record right now. And then here's the problem with the offense, right? You have a system quarterback. There's nothing special about him. If you took him and you unplugged him from the 49ers and you plugged him in an average team like the Giants or the Jets or what have you, no one would care about him. He would fall through the cracks. And I've been saying this for a long time about him. Like, you gotta have that killer instinct to steer the ship if you want to be under center. And I think that is really the problem for the Niners. That's just my opinion. Their defense is great too. So you're as strong as your weakest link, man.
Chris Palmer, what are your thoughts on the Bengals Niners?
Well, first of all, T, I'm sorry that you broke in and out pretty heavily there. We couldn't
sorry.
really hear what you had to say. No,
Is it
you're fine.
better
You're
now
fine. There
for the-
seems to
is
be
it-
some connection difficulties.
Is it better now for the
But
most
we
part?
got the gist of it. That for the most part, we got more so the gist that your opinion on Brock Purdy, how that's more or less where the problems lie for the 3 straight losses.
Right.
My opinion when it comes to this game, essentially, is of course you can never count them out to be ready for a Super Bowl run. From last year to this year, like they are still ready. Realistically, I won't count them out. Me personally, I feel like their fire has kind of gone out. This was his best game of the year. This is week 8. It should not be his best game of the year. That's my opinion. He should have been having games like this consistently if he wanted to keep that fire burning.
Right.
I'm talking about Joe Burrow. When it comes to the 49ers losing 3 straight, Brock Purdy's definitely showing his mortality. Cloud 9 is officially popped and he's on his way down. But he's still on the single most versatile team in the league. There's really no reason why he shouldn't have a problem to succeed in winning games. He just needs to not lose games. Throwing 2 interceptions to a team like the Bengals is a problem. And a big one at that.
Some quarterback.
We're definitely going to keep our eye on San Francisco after they come out of their bye week. They return week 10. So let's move on to Denver, Colorado, where the Denver Broncos upset the Chiefs 24-9 in a 5-turnover loss by Mahomes and the Chiefs. And they played Taylor Swift in the stadium when they won it all. So
petty.
It is petty, but like you fucking asked for it, dude.
Agreed, but it's still petty.
Chiefs have to get it together because they have a tough matchup ahead against the Dolphins in Germany this week. So,
and Taylor Swift will not be in attendance. So,
ooh.
Travis Kelce's contract, he's got to underperform if she's not in the stadium. So,
very nice.
It'd be a shame if Travis Kelce underperformed against the Dolphins. Amazing. So, Palmer, you have any brief thoughts on that game?
Yeah, the Broncos definitely over-celebrated for winning that game. I want you to know that. As a team, it's like they won the goddamn Super Bowl. Stop it. You won a game. You've been playing like shit for 2 years. Move on.
Yep. The one thing I will say,
Love it.
And obviously everybody says this. It just goes to show, man, any given Sunday. Any
Any
given
Absolutely.
given
Sunday.
Sunday, man.
You get blown
It's my
out,
favorite quote always.
70-20, and then a few weeks later you hold one of the best offenses in the league to 9 points with 5 turnovers.
Right. The
Hey.
Super Bowl favorites. Keep that one in mind too.
Hey, we've been saying it almost every time on this podcast. Any given Sunday, anything could happen.
As soon as you turn them lights on, boy, it's game on. It's different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's move on to the desert in Arizona, where my Baltimore Ravens beat the Arizona Cardinals 31-24. Good win by the Ravens. I mean, we just expected them to win.
Yeah.
And now with Josh Dobbs leaving the Cardinals, we expecting Kyler Murray to be back soon for them to be under center.
Yeah, definitely a must. If you guys lost this game, there would be more to talk about. You know,
Oh,
this you should have won this game. So there's really nothing here for that.
Thank God we did. So, let's move on to the Sunday night primetime game where the Los Angeles Chargers and the Chicago Bears duked it out, and the Chargers came away on top 30-13. And I think this was a game where it's like we saw last week with Taysom Badgett, quarterback for the Bears, have a field day against the Raiders. Was he going to carry over that magic into LA? He didn't. No, he just kind of had a good weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just compared an AB and a A team and a D team, so I don't think he was carrying that.
No. So he had one good day in Chicago, but Justin Fields still hurt, so we're going to see a little bit more of Taysom Badgett as the weeks go on. Chargers, they're still staying alive.
Still charging.
Still charging.
Yeah, they're that middle of the road team. Yeah, that's who they are right now. Maybe they can take a step above. They just beat a really, really far into the rebuilding team. Again, another game they just should have won.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the final game of this past week. The Detroit Lions getting a win over the Las Vegas Raiders, 26-14. But honestly, this game wasn't even that close. It was all Lions all day. That Raiders team looked abysmal on Monday night.
Yeah, well,
I mean, 2 people lost their job over it,
GM, head coach, right, and the QB lost his job too. He's officially benched. So,
officially benched.
Yep, Jimmy Garoppolo will not be in next week.
Yeah, the Raiders will be starting Aiden O'Connell next week against the Giants.
Another garbage bowl, but
so.
Dude, I feel so bad for Devontae Adams. I just gotta get that out there. Like,
Jesus the whole world does.
Yeah. I know last year, he abused the cameraman, whatever. He got suspended, but he didn't deserve all this, man. He did not deserve all this.
He's in football hell right now.
Literally.
Right, he's living his own worst nightmare.
Pretty much. So that was our Week 8 recap. T, thank you for giving us your thoughts on those teams and some of those players. There was a great week of football, and we're moving on to Week 9 of this NFL season, and we have a lot of great games to talk about this upcoming week. But I want to start with probably the biggest matchup of this week. There's a lot of big matchups, but the biggest one in Germany, obviously, the Dolphins and the Chiefs. So T, if you wouldn't mind, start us off with your thoughts going into this game.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as like Miami goes, it's a tall order to fill. I mean, it's another one of those games where every possession has to be a successful one, right? Like, either pin them at their 5 if we have to give it to them, or we have to score because they're just a team that could just score every drive in return, right? The Eagles, when we played them, they kind of showed us that we can't force the run. We don't have that kind of offensive line. We thrive with running on the outside, not straight down the middle. So if we can't run outside, we have to move off of it. You know what I mean? But one of the prominent points moving into this game is our defense is back at full strength, and that's huge. Absolutely huge. So can the Chiefs get it done over us? Absolutely. They're another team, phenomenal offense. You have Travis Kelce, Pacheco as a running back. You have Mahomes. Like, cannot doubt them at all, and it's going to be a shootout for sure.
I like it. I like it. Chris Palmer, give me your thoughts on this game going into it.
Well, first of all, T, thank you. Um,
Of course.
but the only thing I kind of disagree. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I feel like the defenses are on both sides are going to thrive this game,
I would love that.
and reason being because it's going to a 90% grass field, you can expect them to air it out, and you can expect the defenses to expect them to air it out. Um, there's going to be some high emotions going into this game. Tyreek Hill is playing Kansas City again.
Right.
But I feel like this is going to be a very tight to the chest game. You will see a couple of bombs being thrown, but I feel like that's going to be during the feel out process, like the first 8 to 12 minutes, maybe the full first quarter. You're going to see people throwing a couple of bombs.
Yeah.
But come the second quarter, third quarter, you're really going to see that to start to wind down, and you're going to start seeing some really hard nosed, whether it be East Coast, West Coast, or North South running. You're going to see a lot of running this game, I think. You may see a couple of jet sweeps with Tyreek Hill. You're going to see a lot of running with Isaiah Pacheco, and do not sleep on either quarterback. You got it. If the first quarter team that forgets to satisfy, you will see a quarterback touchdown, and that is
Oh
a
yeah.
promise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to build on that really quick with Pacheco specifically, that dude has so much mobility.
He's a dog.
100%. One thing, actually, I mentioned this to Halpin too. This is specifically about Tyreek Hill, but Pacheco does the same thing. The incredible ability and mobility to get the ball behind the line of scrimmage, bust out 2 to 3 moves, and steal 15 yards is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
That could win
Well,
a
that
game.
right. That has to do with overall equilibrium and just absolute acceleration.
Yes.
They are so in tune with their core and everything that has to go into power running and being able to stop on a dime. That's why I think we're going to see a lot more running because it's going to be on grass and they can judge their pivots more. You're going to see
Yeah.
some things that we haven't seen all year. We're going to see a lot more bigger cuts on running on passing routes. You're going to see delays and misdirections. You're going to see a lot more stopping on a dime on a grass field than you will on a turf field. So that's why this game to me is becoming more exciting as the days go on.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm really excited for this game. I know I've said to both of you before, like, I want to see this game in the playoffs. And some part of me does think that we probably will see this game in the playoffs, just based on how both these two teams are playing.
Mm-hmm.
Both the Chiefs the Dolphins have the number one ranked offense so far in the league. They average 453 yards per game. But the Chiefs are not far
Yeah.
behind. They are the number four ranked offense in the league, averaging 381 yards per game. So the Dolphins and Chiefs, like both of these offenses, are absolutely stellar. But that's not where the similarities end either. Both of these teams have a lot of success on their defense getting pressure on the quarterback. Um, the Dolphins have a collective 27 sacks amongst that defense, where the Chiefs have a collective 28 sacks for their defense. So both
Yeah.
teams can bring pressure, and they're doing it not solely dependent on one player. They're doing it with a wide variety of players. Like for example, on the Dolphins, they have Bradley Chubb with 5 sacks. They have Christian Wilkins with 4.5 sacks. They have Van Ginkel getting 4 sacks.
My man Van Ginkel.
Yo,
Van
he's a
Ginkel.
beast.
He is a
Absolute
beast. Oh, and anyone who watches Dolphins games, look for the guy with the luscious blonde hair because he is making plays on that defense.
Yes, sir.
Reminds me of Kevin Green.
He held the defense together when we had so many holes. He really did.
Absolutely, and he's a great player to watch that not many people know his name, but people should get used to his name because he is an impact player, as well as Jamie Phillips on the defense. Now, Jamie Phillips doesn't have that many illustrious stats. He has 2.5 sacks with a combined, I think it was 24 tackles. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I think it was 14. My mistake. But either way, his presence on the defense is still felt a lot. Like you see him pressure quarterbacks, even if he's not like getting and cashing out with a sack. he's still pressuring the quarterback and forcing that offense to account for him on the line of scrimmage. So I really love the way the Dolphins defense is. And like to your point, T, now they're even healthier in the secondary with Javon
Exactly.
Holland coming back. Jalen Ramsey came back last week and he got a pick on Mac Jones. It was great to see.
Yes, sir.
And you have Xavier Howard coming back as well. So it's like now this is the time where like you're starting to get healthy at the right time.
Right.
It's really good to see. I want to flip it over to the Chiefs, though. They are still getting done with a lot of young players. I got to give a shout out to George Karlaftis, the second-year player for the Chiefs. He was one of their first-round draft picks last year. He has 6 sacks so far this year. Again, out of a collective 28 for the team. Chris
That's
Jones
huge.
is still. Oh yeah, and Chris Jones is still there with 5.5 sacks too. So like that, we are known. Like we expect the Chiefs to be a very offensive heavy team that we have seen in years past. But this year, they're more of a defensive team than they are on offense. I mean, granted, again, they still have the number 4 ranked offense, but they only averaged 23 points a game so far this year compared to years past where Mahomes averages like 28 to 30 points a game every year. They're not scoring that much, but they're scoring enough to win them games. Aside from that Chicago blowout, they're not really blowing anyone out. If they're winning, it's winning by like a possession, nothing too crazy. So when I look into this game, I want to see a shootout. I don't see it happening. I see a little bit of a low scoring game because of just the pressure that they can get on. But one thing that's really going to determine this game, it's one word, it's turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Who can cause
First turnover wins?
who can turn the ball over less? Because both of these teams have a -4 turnover differential. If one big turnover, and that can change the whole outcome of the game.
Yeah.
We've seen it time and time again that a late pick or an early pick even can just suck the sales out of anybody. Yeah, no, this game is going to be so much fun.
I'm so grateful that it's a morning game too, because it's like no anticipation. Kick off the day with probably
Is it?
either best or second best game of the day.
I was gonna say, would it be too early to be drinking beer at 9:30 in the morning? I mean, the Germans
Is
are
it too
doing
early
it.
to have
So
high blood pressure? No,
Yes, maybe not.
that's what the
both
NFL says.
both valid points, and I think both are fine. But I'm a little biased, you know.
oh man, I'm really I'm really looking forward to this game, man. This is going to be such a great game to watch. And again, I think we're going to see this in this matchup in January, and I hope we do, because Tyreek Hill, I know he said he's going to be the Chiefs' worst nightmare for this game.
I hope so, man. It'd be great for me.
It kind of reminds me of Steve Smith's return to Carolina when he went to
Ooh.
Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
He was just all business.
I remember that game. That was a great game.
It was a rough game for Carolina, that's for sure.
Oh, that was such a rough game for Carolina. So I gotta say, do you guys have any final thoughts on this game?
31-28 Fins.
Keep your eyes peeled. This should be fun. Ooh, my man
I
got
like it.
scores.
You got
Good for you.
whipping out the scores. I love it.
You heard it here first.
Love it. All right, heard it here first, boys.
Paul, man, any final thoughts on this game?
Just giddy up, man. This is going to be a very, very interesting game.
Oh yeah, and that's just the first game to start our Sunday kickoff. So I want to move on to the second game that we wanted to discuss, and that was the Eagles and the Cowboys. And like you were saying earlier, T, this might be the NFC matchup, NFC game of the week. Start us off. Tell me, what are your thoughts of the Eagles and Cowboys going into this week?
For me, I'm sorry, I broke in and out for a second.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh no,
Oh.
you're good. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this game?
Absolutely massive game, because being that they're division rivals, you know, this hypothetically Cowboys win, right? They're chomping at the bits. They're only one game out from taking the division, and with the division
Mhm.
loss, it's that much bigger. I think that it's going to be a very, I don't want to say offensive, but I feel like the Eagles will be offensive while the Cowboys are going to stick to their defensive game. Where it's
Mhm.
like if they could keep it low scoring, I think that their offense can close it out without a problem. Micah Parsons is going to play a huge part in that. But, to like what we mentioned earlier, the Eagles, with the record that they have, having only one loss, they know what it takes to win. So you really can't put anything past them. Like Jalen Hurts could run the ball. DeAndre Swift could have a bust out game. Pass game could go crazy with A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. And even Dallas Goedert. Even he's playing such a factor this year, which is crazy to see. You love to see it too.
Mhm.
You want to see the big guy get moving, but I got Eagles taking this one, to be honest.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's going to be a fascinating matchup. Palmer, what are your thoughts on this game heading into it?
Um, this game's going to be interesting. Interdivision matchups are always fun, especially when they're two front runners of the division. You know, it's cool to watch two alphas go against each other. Cowboys, year in year out, they are NFC contenders on paper. So it should be fun to watch them go up against a true NFC championship contender, the Eagles. But as history shows, right the week after the Cowboys have a huge win, they get their asses kicked. They had a huge win last week. Let's hope they don't get their asses kicked this week. Let's hope they can break that stigma.
Valid.
The Cowboys defense, of course, is top tier. It's the offense that it troubles me. CeeDee Lamb is their number one. Michael Gallup, their number two. I like Tony Pollard. Everyone likes Tony Pollard. But when it comes to their receivers between CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, there's no outstanding number one. I guess in terms of who gets past two more, you could say it's CeeDee Lamb. I'm talking about athleticism and skill level.
Right.
They need another receiver to be the star of that receiving core, if that makes sense. Whether it be a tight end, whether it be a wide receiver, something. You need another piece for Dak to look at without having to give it to Tony Pollard and overrun him like they overran Zeke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love both your takes. I love it because this game is going to be a absolute slugfest between these two teams because there's a lot on the line. I think when you look at these two teams, there's a lot of pressure on the Cowboys more than the Eagles, more so for expectation purposes. It's like we expect the Eagles to just keep doing their thing, and they'll probably be first or second seed, right? They'll probably take this division. But if the Cowboys win, they can really make a statement. The Cowboys are one of those teams where it's like they are absolutely dominant against mediocre to crap tier teams.
The
But
Dolphins. Sorry, go ahead.
but when it comes to like higher competition, they struggle, i.e. 49ers.
Yeah.
So and we've seen it before. So it's like they really, as the term is called, muscle up against the weaker opponents. So now it's like, okay, you're against your division rival. Let's see what you got. Philly's coming in with the number 3 offense in the NFL right now. Dolphins at number 1, Chiefs at number 4, and the Phillies right there at number 3. Now, last year, Philly had the number 2. Mm-hmm.
Off topic. Who's number 2 defense this year or offense this year? Do we know? If we don't know off the top of our heads, fine. Just curious.
I'll look it up. Hang on. Give me 2 seconds.
Because I heard 1, 3, and 4, and I'm like, who the fuck is 2? But go ahead.
Who's 2 right now? So Jalen Hurts is still playing at this point in time at a at an MVP caliber level. With 2,140 yards, 13 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions, with 280 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. So he's like, like having it like combined scrimmage yards. He's having about 2,400 yards, 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. The 8 interceptions concerns me
Yeah, it's a
because
problem.
he did not have that many last year at this point in time. But the Eagles are just going to keep running it and running it and running it
Yeah.
until they can't run it no more. What also concerns me is they last year they had the number 2 ranked defense right behind the 49ers. This year it's dropped to 8. And we've seen it before with teams able to throw on Philly. We saw the Vikings throw on Philly. Kirk Cousins had over 300 yards week 2. We saw Sam Howell in both of his games against Philly throw for a butt ton of yards against them. So teams can really do it. But that's precisely, I guess, why the Eagles made a trade at the trade deadline for the Tennessee Titans to get Kevin Byard, their
Such a
strong
big
safety.
pickup.
That was
This is a
probably the
smart
biggest
move.
pickup of. It was a smart move, absolutely. Like he was the Titans' best defensive player, playing at the strong safety position, and he is. That's what you need right now. It's like if you want to mitigate the damage through the air, you get a safety playing deep and hawk it, and just absolutely ball hawk against your opponent's offense.
It may
I
be the
like
biggest trade of the year,
of the year.
Kevin Byard to the Eagles. I think that would be the biggest trade of the year. There wasn't much to go around.
Yeah, there really wasn't a lot.
There wasn't any huge blockbuster trades this year.
Yeah,
All of them happened
With a
last year.
lot, I saw a lot of people were rumored to move from like Jerry Jeudy to D Hop,
Right.
Derrick Henry. I even saw T Higgins the day of. But
Right. There was a lot of speculation as of to a couple fire sales potentially. None of it happened.
yeah,
Yeah. It's even though that was probably the biggest one, it was probably the most important one because it just shores up that Eagles defense. And I think that with his addition, we'll probably see the Eagles defense climb up a little bit from 8 closer to top 5. They're probably not like there, but they'll get there
They'll sit
as
at
the
6.
season goes on. Yeah. So, but I want to flip it to the Cowboys real quick. The Cowboys come into this game with the 15th ranked offense, but the number 3 defense in the league, which is like just the defense. I'm been impressed with all year, but the offense, to your point, T and CP, is just that's what concerns me. Dak Prescott, his stats, they don't jump out at the page like they do with Jalen Hurts. He has 1,637 passing yards, 10 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, with 104 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So he's doing okay. He's not doing anything spectacular,
It's
but
normal for him.
it's pretty normal. And I think that, look, so long as the Cowboys, you don't turn the ball over, you'll be fine. Because right now, the Cowboys, what's really winning them their games is that turnover differential. They have a +6 turnover differential in the league right now. That is huge. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the first one at +7 or +8, but Cowboys are right there. Philly has -3. So they are giving the ball more than they're taking the ball. And I think that that's going to be a big factor to it. Much like, as I said, with the Dolphins and Chiefs, turnovers. That's really going to determine the game. And especially a game of this magnitude, it's going to be fun to see because you see one lost fumble in the second half or one interception in the second half, it changes the whole game.
100%.
Interesting stat. They're also top 5 in time of possession, the Cowboys. On average.
Oh, I did.
Average time of possession.
I did look up. So the number 2 offense in the league is not the 49ers.
Oh.
It is Detroit.
Aha.
Detroit Lions at number 2.
Hey, it's great, man.
Oh, shit.
The lines are they just keep rolling, man. The lines are just keep on rolling. And I partly want to see that Eagles Lions game if they're playing this year. If not in the playoffs, that'd be pretty nice. But
Yeah.
But one thing obviously that we're going to see a lot of this game, and T, I know you mentioned it earlier in our recap, is that brotherly shove. we're going to
Fuck
see
them
a
boys.
lot of that this game in short yardage situation. Um, I wanted to just kind of like look up
You know
some
my
things
stance
that
on the
made it.
brotherly shove garbage.
I I know, and believe me, it's not an uncommon thing. And you and I, we spoke off air, and I compared it to like in a fighting game, right? If you back someone up against a corner and just keep throwing jabs and they can't move, you can play that way, but it's like it's the cheap way to get those yards. It's the cheap way to play.
Well, like
So, and that's
to
kind of. Mhm.
no to build on that. Like think about this, right? So they're 7-1 right now. They keep on this route. They have a good shot at the Super Bowl. But so let's hypothetically say they get to the Super Bowl. If they were to come out on top using that as a tactic, that Super Bowl win is tainted, and you know it is.
It's completely deflated.
Exactly.
It's I wouldn't say it's deflated personally. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't say it's deflated personally, but it's because they can still do it, and it's still legal. But it's not right. That's the thing. It's not a sexy play. It's not the way football is meant to be played.
That's what I said.
But
That's what I said
it's
the other day.
still within. I know, but it's still legal within it. But the refs, the NFL Commissioners League, they are going to take a look at this play at the end of the season, and they're probably it takes 24 votes by the owners to change a rule within the league. So
Mhm.
I'm pretty positive that something's going to happen. I do want to say I was doing some research, and since this play has actually been legal since 2005, when the league removed language that prohibited players from pushing. So like they allowed it to happen from 2005 onward, but since then, or prior to 2005, you were not allowed to push to advance the yards
Right.
of it. So it's like I'm guessing they're going to open up the rule book at the end of this season, take a look, and kind of rewrite the language of the
The
rules,
way
just because Eagles are so successful with it.
the way that I see it changing is like you said, like the wording of it. When you catch a reception and a corner stops you, a teammate can push you. You can get 2 or 3 more yards. That's all said and fine, right? I think the way it changes is you're not going to be able to push someone behind the line of scrimmage for a gain of yards. I think that's where the
Right. They're
divide
going to
has
make
to
that
happen.
part of the block in the back.
Exactly.
They're going to make it part of the block in the back penalty is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to all come down to player safety. It's going to be turned into the offensive line is not safe when this happens, so we're going to get rid of it completely.
Yep.
It's the same thing like with the kickoff when they got rid of the wedge. They changed the whole kickoff group. Like now they have to wait. They can't go back and form the wedge and start running and be the running wall of meat at people.
Right.
So they're gonna do the same thing when it comes to that. When I was growing up playing football, and we would call QB sneak. As a lineman, my foot would be attached to the heel of the center, so we would literally form like a flying V, and the quarterback would just roll through with us. He wouldn't even give a snap count. It would literally be on the touch of his hand to the bottom of the center, and you go.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you have someone pushing behind you as a lineman, that's not comfortable. That's not comfortable. So, again, I would not expect this to be here next year because they're going to deem it completely unsafe for the most important people on the field.
Yeah, fucking Jason Kelsey taking 2,000 pounds of grown men on his back.
Right.
It's a problem.
3-4 times a game.
Oh yeah, and this might actually be Jason Kelsey's last year because he
He
contemplated
did talk about
retiring
retirement.
Yeah.
after the Super Bowl. So he is here for one more year. So if he leaves and the rule gets changed, Eagles are going to be a very different team.
I was gonna say, imagine the fucking ruling changes for him to retire. Like, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here, boys. I got my ring. I'm good.
Right, I got my one.
But oh man, this is there's a lot of it's just crazy just how much is going on in the league right now, and the brotherly shove is just one of those plays where it's like, well, it just distinguishes itself this year. And I know, Paul, you and I, we talked about it in our Super Bowl recap, where it's like we're going to be seeing this play a lot
A
this year.
lot. Right.
And we have.
Lo and behold, here it is.
Yeah.
It seems like this year in particular, there's been a real tug of war on player safety. It's like everyone wants to be safe, but at the same time, it's like we're going to run 2,000 pounds on a lineman.
Yeah.
We want to be safe, but at the same time, we're going to keep the field's turf. We want
You
to be
know-
safe, but we're going to keep doing things that's making the game less safe long term in lieu of trying to get rid of a small percentage of injuries that happen.
Yeah.
T, you were going to say something?
No, I think what kills me too is like, brotherly shoves a fucked play, but it kills me how every time they do it, they'll show the replay and they praise Jalen Hurts because he could leg press or bench 600 pounds, but in reality, he's being picked up by the men behind him and put on Jason Kelsey's back as Jason Kelsey pushes through 3 grown men. So it's like, don't tell me it's Jalen
Give the
Hurts
praise
doing
to where it is. It's the line. The offensive line is owning that play.
That's
It's
what
those
kills
quads,
me.
man. It's those quads.
It just
That
kills
back,
me.
bro.
Offensive line, like they don't get enough credit, and I think that this play specifically should be like, dude, give them their credit.
Got to give them their praise. And I talk about that to nauseum, the underappreciation of offensive line and what goes on this line of scrimmage during each and every play.
Yes, sir.
They're true warriors in the trenches, and that's just what it is.
Meet me in the trenches, Chris Palmer.
Don't
I'm
do
retired
that.
from there, boy.
Don't fucking do that. That's crazy.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this game. This is going to be such an amazing game to watch. You guys have any final thoughts on this game?
Like I said, it's really, I think the showdown here is Eagles offense against Cowboys defense. I think that's going to be
Absolutely.
the true test.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, interdivision games, anything goes. We're going to see a little bit more intensity simply on that fact alone. Going to be a very fun game.
Oh, it's going to be an amazing game. So, with that, that was the 2 games that we wanted to discuss. T, just want to say thank you so much for giving us your opinion on all 4 of those teams. We really appreciate your input and being here. But before we leave, we want to make our picks for this
who you
upcoming
got
week.
coming up?
Yeah, so we want to know who you got, T. So, T, are you ready to make some picks with us?
Yeah, throw them at me.
You got it. So, okay. Thursday night game. Tennessee Titans against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chris Palmer, I'm going to start with you. Who you got?
I'll be honest with you. I think I'm going to go with the Titans this week.
Ooh.
I really liked Will Levis. I did not like our offensive showing again. It's a roller coaster right now for Pittsburgh. So it's either we're going to come out and play or we're not. But that injury to Minka Fitz is going to hurt. And if Will Levis comes out and he wants to throw 4 touchdowns, there's no safety to tell him no.
Ooh, a very interesting pick. T, who you got for this game?
Nat picked Pittsburgh. Reason being, Mike Tomlin's one of the greatest coaches of all time. I will never be swayed otherwise. And the other thing is, backtrack to last week, they held Jacksonville to 20 points. And Jacksonville is one of those offenses to not be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I don't personally see, what is it, Titans you said? I don't see them getting more than 14 points. And that keeps it a very close game. I understand the Steelers are injury-ridden right now, but I'm picking Pittsburgh on this one.
Oh, I respect it. I like it. I'm going to go with the Titans as well with Palmer on this one.
Yeah, but you're wrong.
Probably. I have been wrong before, plenty of times.
I would be okay with that too. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, reason being is because I really want to see, as much as a lot of the focus is going to be on Will Levis, you can't forget about King Henry. He's still one of the best running backs in the league, and to me that matchup, it lies right there in the trenches, like you were saying before, Chris Palmer. It's going to be right in that. It's going to be if that Titans offensive line can create enough gaps for Derrick Henry to run through, because once he's in the secondary, he's gone.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans as well. With this, Palmer, I think this is the first time you picked against your Steelers this year. I'm surprised.
No, the 1 week that I wasn't on, I voted against them. It was a vote of no confidence, if you remember.
Yes. And they beat my Ravens.
Yes.
So, okay. So let's move on to Sunday's slate of games with the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. T, should I
Who
even
you
ask
got?
who you got? Who you got?
Fins up.
All right.
Fins up all day.
I love it. I love it. CP, who you got?
I'm gonna show you that same respect, man. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins on this one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. I too am going to go with the Dolphins on this one.
Ooh, triple
I well,
down on the fence.
you thought I was going to go KC? No,
I did.
I gotta say one thing I really liked about the Dolphins heading into this game is their preparation. The Dolphins left for Germany on Monday, and they are already there. The Chiefs left today, Wednesday, so they still have less time to prepare. So I like the preparation heading into this game, and I think that this is again going to be one of the great matchups to see this weekend. I'm really looking forward to this game. Might crack a beer open at 9:30 in the morning just for it, but do like the Germans.
Yes, sir. I'll go out to brunch for some mimosas if you want to. Anyway.
Amen to that. Bro, it'd be terrible if we went to get mimosas for that game. I love it. Okay, so let's move on to the 1 o'clock games, starting with the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta.
Oh my god, that's
I'm
such a
going to start with you, T. Who you got?
that is such a bad. Both of these teams moved on from their quarterbacks, correct?
Yes.
So it's like that's no Jefferson on the Vikings. That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Taylor Heineke on the Falcons.
I'm gonna give it to Taylor Heineke. I'm gonna give it to the Falcons.
I like it. I like it. Chris Palmer, who you got?
I think I'm gonna go with the Vikings this time around. I want to see what Josh Dobbs does.
I like it. I respect it, man. I'm going to go with the Falcons on this one. I like Taylor Heineke as a quarterback,
That's how I feel.
and I think that even though he is the quarterback, the team is not going to rest on him. It's going to be on those two young studs at running back, at Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, because because the Falcons are, I think, they're like the third most efficient offense in the league, and they're one of the best running teams in the league. They run the ball a lot. So Heineke, even though he's in the game, he really just has to hand it off to them. For Josh
Ironic.
Dobbs, I know, and Josh Dobbs, he has a tall order for him, being that he's just coming to a new team just this week, so he has a lot to learn in Minnesota. But I'm going to go with the Falcons as well. So let's move on to the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. Chris Palmer, I'll start with you. Who you got for this one?
I'm gonna go with the Saints on this one, man. I like Derek Carr in the Saints uniform, and the Bears are still a bunch of mess right now.
Okay, I like it. T, who you got for this one?
Who's the Bears and who? I'm sorry.
Bears and
Saints.
Saints.
I'll give it to the Saints. Like I said, Taysom Hill's a problem. Alvin Kamara is the whole fucking team. But that man's a beast.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Saints as well. Chicago just looks like a very depleted team right now, and the
It's just a
Saints
mess.
just came off a very explosive win against the Colts. So I'm gonna go with the Saints as well on this one. Let's move on to an NFC matchup: the Los Angeles Rams against the Green Bay Packers. I'm gonna go with the Rams on this one. Personally, I like Matt Stafford and that Rams offense. Chris Palmer, who you got for this one?
I'm gonna go with the Rams as well. I trust Matt Stafford more than I do Jordan Love, strictly
Mhm.
from report card. The Packers, they definitely were a flash in the pan first 2 weeks of the year, and they're just back to their struggling, desperate selves. The Rams, they're not as good as we always think they're gonna be. They always think they're gonna be great for everyone. Always just wants the Rams to be great, and they're riding in the middle of the field. So we'll see.
T, who you got for this one?
I got to give it to the Rams as well. I think it's just more so the Packers' ability to lose. Like they're just not. They're not that good this year. It's bad. Jordan
Not
Yeah.
what
Love.
anybody was expecting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Packers had high expectations this year, but they were completely demolished after the Packers' performance these last couple weeks. It's a sad time in Green Bay, but hopefully the Rams can take this win and carry it with some momentum to maybe get a playoff spot. They could be there at that 7th seed. So let's keep an eye on them going forward. Let's move on to what T would refer to as the garbage bowl between the Washington Commanders and the New England Patriots. T, who you got for this game?
Commanders, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. Despite, I'm not a big fan of Sam Howell, but I like the offense aside from him. Whereas the Patriots, like, what's your redeeming quality, really? Like fucking midriff Zeke and Belichick? I'm not going with that.
Midriff Zeke. I like it. Chris Palmer, who you got for this one?
I'm actually gonna go with the Patriots on this one. I feel like Bill Belichick is the better coach. I feel like the absence of Chase Young and Montez Sweat is going to really affect that defense. And I don't think Sam Howell can put up the points. So I'm gonna go with Patriots.
Man, this is a tough one. I didn't really think
it's gonna be an ugly game.
It's gonna be a very ugly game. I'm gonna go with New England as well with you, CP. I kind of have an expectation for the Patriots. It's not a great expectation, but at least I kind of have a sense of who they are as a team.
Right.
Washington, I have no idea what the fuck they are. I just can't get a pulse on them for
Right.
any reason.
And there hasn't been an opportunity to get one for years. They have no pulse.
Yeah, it's like this year in particular, they're a team that's like they could put up 30 points and still lose, but yet they could also put up like
8 points and win.
Yeah, it's so weird. So I'm gonna go with New England on this one just because it's like Washington. I don't even know what the fuck's going on in Washington anymore. So okay, so let's move on to Baltimore, where my Ravens take on the Seattle Seahawks. T, I'll start with you. Who you got for this one?
It's a tough one.
It is.
That's actually a tough one.
It's gonna be a great game.
I guess I'll go with Baltimore. Not so much for you, but more so like based on versatility of offense. You got Gus Edwards and Mark Andrews, so it's like you have more versatility. Lamar can run like a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give it to Baltimore.
I like it. Thank you, Chris Palmer. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Ravens as well. Strictly because I feel like your defense is going to be able to muddle the offense of Seattle better than their defense is going to be able to hold you guys back. You guys are 3 times as athletic as the Seahawks. The issue that can come in is your guys' improbability to score in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
If you can score in the red zone like you've been the past 2 weeks, you should have no problem. But if it goes back to a month ago from where you had to kick 5 field goals, again, I'm going to keep, when you have to rely on Justin Tucker and you only can grab 3 points every time you trip down the field, that's when problems can arise. And everyone knows that that's the ugly twin of the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, believe me, I'm well aware of that. Justin Tucker has won us plenty of games just by his lonesome, and I'm very grateful for it. But yet again, I'm not going to dismiss that it's a crutch for us as well. I'm gonna take my Ravens, of course. I think Seattle, they had a tough time stopping the run against Cleveland, and the Ravens are, I believe, the second best running team in the league right now. So we tend to run the ball more than we pass. With Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and obviously with Lamar. But I do have to say, like, Seattle does have a lot of talent, especially young talent, especially on defense. They have Quandre Diggs, Michael Jackson, and Reek Woolen. Those are all great players. And I think recently they got Leonard Williams from the Giants, if I'm not mistaken. So they do have a little extra beef up on the defensive line. I think this is going to be a lot closer of a game than a lot of people expect, personally. So I'm going to go with my Ravens. We lost you for a second, T. Yeah, up.
Takes me out, but hopefully it doesn't affect anything so far as like your recording purposes.
It shouldn't.
You should be good.
Okay.
You should be good. Let's just get through these picks and we'll finish up. We'll finish up this episode.
I was wondering if it had to do with like maybe because I'm not a member of Riverside and we exceeded an hour, but I don't know. It literally just kicked me in and let me right back in.
Sometimes it's connection issues. It's happened
Yeah,
before.
Okay.
this app's
Sorry
been
about
weird
that.
since its birth, but it's okay. It's not your fault.
All good. All good. Let's move on to Houston, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Houston Texans. T, who you got for this one?
I'll give it to Houston.
I like it. I like it. Chris Palmer, who you got for this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Houston as well. I feel like they're gonna turn around. From last week, they're gonna come. They're a good team. They got beat up, so they're gonna come in angry. And I don't think the Bucks are really prepared for the athleticism that is Houston.
I too am going to go with Houston as well. I think C.J. Stroud, despite losing last week, he's still playing very well and very efficiently. He's playing better than Baker Mayfield, and that offense for the Bucks is very predictable, where it's just throw to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Very simple.
Yeah.
So
Right.
let's move on to Cleveland with the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Cleveland Browns. Chris Palmer, I'll start with you. Who you got for this one?
I'm gonna go with the Browns. The Browns should have absolutely no problem beating the Cardinals right now. The Cardinals are still bleeding out in a rolling dumpster fire from a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Um, it's desperate times in Arizona right now, man. Cleveland should have no problem. Myles Garrett should have a fucking field day.
Oh yeah, this should be a very interesting game to watch. T, who you got for this one?
I agree. I got to give it to the Browns. I think that PJ Walker is coming into his own. You got Kareem Hunt getting more snaps every single game, and Myles Garrett is just a problem on defense. The man single-handedly ruins offenses.
Yes, absolutely, and that's definitely the term for it, single-handedly, because all he needs is just one hand, and it
Right.
just disrupts the whole offense. I too am going to go with the Browns on this one. They're just playing a lot better than Arizona, and I think this is the return of Kyler Murray, if I'm not mistaken. But either way,
Well,
I don't think that's good.
I thought Call of Duty comes out next week.
Yeah,
You're right.
it'll be after this game.
It'll be after the
okay.
game.
Okay, so then he'll be out after that. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
he'll come back for this game, and then he'll be gone on.
Right.
Yeah. So
As long as
we'll
he
see.
watches film, he can hit his double XP weekend. It's in his contract.
Gotcha.
Savages. I want to move on to the Carolina Panthers and the Indianapolis Colts. T, who you got for this one?
Colts. The Panthers just can't get it together this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's full rebuild for them, so it's Colts.
Mm-hmm. Chris Palmer?
This one is a little interesting. I'm gonna go with the Colts too, but I wouldn't put it against the Panthers to really give them a 4-quarter fight.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hard win for them last week. But going into this week, I feel like this is going to be another toe-to-toe, going to stand and take every punch that we get, and we're going to give a couple back. So I'm going to go with the Colts, but don't sleep on the Panthers this week. Could be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think this could be the potential for a higher scoring game than people realize. Carolina gives up on average 31 points per game. Colts give up on average 28 points per game. Their defenses are not that good. And Gardner Minshew has been playing pretty well, I will say, to his credit. He has been playing very well in the absence of Anthony Richardson. So I'm going to go with the Colts as well on this one. I think we all kind of had the expectation for Carolina that they're pretty much
waiting to next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's move on to Las Vegas with the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the New York Giants. Chris Palmer, I will start with you in what T has referred to as the Garbage Bowl. Who you got for this one?
The team formerly known as the Raiders, with a new GM and a new coach and a new quarterback, going up against the confused Daniel Jones, the clueless Brian Daboll, and the defense that is a bunch of frauds.
Wow.
I would go with the Raiders, but it's not going to be a good game. It's going to be maybe a 3-point game. If 3 points are scored in this game, I'll actually be pretty impressed.
I
pulled no punches on this one. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to give it to the Raiders and hope that Devontae busts out. I hope this is a liberating game for him.
Oh,
it's
man.
a set free game.
It is a free game, pretty much. He's. That's the thing, though. Is like when you're on a bad team, for any bad team, it's like you're putting film up so that other teams can like be like,
Yeah.
okay, I like what this guy does.
Right.
Devontae's still
This is
got a
the
couple
free hit
years left on his
montage.
contract, so I would assume that maybe next year that they tried to trade him. But I'm gonna go with the Raiders as well. Not for any particular reason. They played like garbage on fucking Monday.
No particular reason except the Giants might play worse than a team that just fire sold their entire front office.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so love it. Let's move on to. Actually, we got some good games here to close us out. Dallas at Philly. T, you said you have Philly. You're sticking to them.
Yeah, sticking to the guns.
I
Okay.
respect it. Chris Palmer, who you got for this one?
I gotta go with the Eagles too, man. I do not trust the Cowboys, the NFC Bills.
I respect it. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys on this one. Actually, I just think I like that. I like that defense, man. I just really like that Cowboys defense, and I'm really curious to see if they can stop the brotherly shove. Probably not, but let's see if they can do it. Be up to the challenge. So let's move on to the Sunday night primetime game. This is going to be an excellent matchup between these two teams. Possibly must-win game. Both teams had 3 losses at this point so far in the season. The Buffalo Bills against the Cincinnati Bengals. The matchup we did not get last year, but we get this week. So I will start with T. You. Who you got for this one?
So completely unbiased because of their division. I give it to the Bengals though. I feel like the Bengals are coming up while the Bills are kind of like going down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bills just don't. They aren't the team that they were last year. So I give it to Bengals.
I like it. CP, who you got for this one?
I'm gonna go with the Bills this week.
For my fantasy.
As much as I don't trust the Bills, and it's the same argument for the Bengals, they are not the team they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for Joe Burrow to go 8 weeks to have his best game of the year, that should say a lot. There's issues with Jamar Chase and the coaching staff. So there's issues going on in Cincinnati again. So that Cincy stink is starting to come back, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
They can still play. Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. I will never take away his talent. The Bengals, I feel like, again, the fire is more or less running out. And the Bills are as reckless as they are. They're still the front runner in the AFC.
I love both those takes, man, because it's like it's so hard. You could this matchup. It's like you
Probably
could
the
flip a
hardest
coin.
one of the week.
It's probably one of the hardest matchups to pick this week. I'm gonna go with the Bengals on this one. I just think that for some reason we see patterns, right? We see patterns in life and we see patterns in football. It just seems to be a pattern where the Bengals play bad the first couple weeks, and then they really cook in the middle of the year. And I think that right now, at home against a Bills team that Josh Allen can just turn it over at any given moment, I like that Bengals defense, much like the stats that you and I we talked about last week, CP. That Bengals defense is actually pretty good. It's on the same It's on the same level as that San Francisco defense. But that Bills defense is also very good. You still have Ed Oliver, Von Miller. It's going to be a great game, a great primetime game. But I'm going to give this one to the Bengals just a little bit. But this is a fantastic matchup to watch. So let's move on to the final game of the week, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers against the New York Jets. Chris Palmer, I'll start with you. Who you got?
Well, first off, can we see that there was a networking ploy here? They were going to try and do a comparison to Aaron Rodgers and the quarterback for the Chargers if Aaron Rodgers was still healthy. Putting
Herbert?
the Jets on Monday night. Yeah.
Oh.
Putting the Jets on Monday night. I feel like they completely scheduled that and completely flopped, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to go with the Chargers. I feel like they're going to even out this week. Again, it still concerns me. Their 2-minute game still concerns me a lot. The Jets defense can very easily capitalize, but I think Justin Herbert can lead them to victory a lot easier than Zach Wilson can.
Okay, so you're going with the Chargers?
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. T, who you got for this one?
Did you just ask me who's gonna
He
win?
asked you if you're going to ax the Jets, or if you think the
Not
Jets are
even
going to win.
that. Not even that. Right? Let's
Who
remove the
you
name
got?
Jet.
So
We're gonna
who you
remove.
got?
Yeah, I know what he said, but the question that you asked is: do you think that a football team is gonna win, or a team that struggled to beat the fucking Giants is gonna win?
Yeah, that is the question. I'm curious to know your response to that.
Rolling trash
I
can.
remember when the phrase was no. There's no such thing as dumb questions, but we're gonna go Chargers. I don't think Jets
Okay,
are.
we're going to keep that one.
Yeah, Jets are gonna score sub 10.
Oof. Oof.
Oh my god! Yeah,
Y'all called me savage.
You might be right on that, but hey, any given Sunday or any given Monday in this case, you never know.
True.
I wouldn't give the Jets that Monday.
Okay, boys. So that is it. That is our Week 9 picks for this upcoming week. We want to say, T, thank you for joining us this week. We had an absolute blast with you on the podcast.
Yeah, my dude. Thank you so much for coming. Hope to
Yes,
have
sir.
you on again.
We shall see. It's a possibility, my boys. I'm always
Whatever else
around.
comes around, we will talk.
Yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely. So, again, T, thank you once again for joining us. And if you would like to join us on an episode of Let's Talk Football, please be sure to contact either myself or Chris Palma, and we would love to have you on, and we would love to talk some football with you. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube jazz, and we will see you next week on Let's Talk Football.
Thanks, guys.